I love that. Wait a few more minutes for people to come on in.
Starting to think I was overthinking it with a blazer. It is my personal office. Might have my pseudo secretary come in and hand me some papers in the middle of the meeting. Oh, this is very important. Excuse me, group.
You don't know what nowadays.
Josh, I miss walking by you guys every morning into the office.
Yeah, why is that not happening anymore? I guess you're just not going into the office.
I can just roll out of bed and come immediately into this room rather than parking at the place that I used to park and walking by.
Okay, you guys, I have to say, I started off the morning at 7:30 in Shoreline, headed on down to Thurston County, and I think I was back up in Whatcom County a few minutes ago, and now I think I'm still there, right?
Wow. That's some frequent flyer miles there.
You bet.
All right, it is 10 o'clock, so we will get started now. Welcome everyone to January's On Topic. We are starting this back up again and we're really excited about it here at the Chamber. So it is marketing in the new year is the topic for today. And we have Patti Rowlson from Bellingham PR and Communications, Josh Burdick from Veritas Media, Heidi Persson from Cascade Media Group, and Alex Bruner from Intellitonic. So thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day for this. So I'd like to invite the panelists to do a quick intro of yourself. Just a brief bio and your name, and we'll start with Patti.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Patti Rowlson from Bellingham PR and Communications. I founded this business in 2009, and currently it comprises of a small team. It's myself as the PR and Communications Director. We have Matthew, who's an editor and content strategist, and then Samantha, who helps us manage social media and recruitment tasks for some of our clients. As a team and collaboratively between the three of us, we help companies that are local here in Whatcom County with outsourced marketing and communications needs. And sometimes people don't know what that looks like or what that even means. So I'd like to share just like some samples of what we've been working on. I can let you know that, recently we're currently helping a company write a history book that covers the last 25 years of their business. We're managing all pandemic related messaging for a healthcare client. And that goes to we write the words that they send to their staff and to their patients, and then make public relations and media release statements. We edit Business Pulse magazine every other month. And we also do a fair bit of helping local businesses advertise for new staff. And we help the Chamber with some of their writing projects too. So we're glad to be a part of this community and look forward to any opportunities that we can help businesses grow here. So thank you.
Thank you, Patti. I'll have Josh go next.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me here today. So my name is Josh Burdick. I'm the founder and CEO of Veritas Media. And Veritas, I know a lot of you know kind of who we are in the community, but we do a lot of video production and video marketing for local businesses, nonprofits. Throughout the pandemic, we've really doubled down on virtual events and live streaming, and we've done a lot of that. We've supported a lot of our local nonprofits with their fundraising and their auctions and things that just can't happen in person anymore right now. So we have a studio space on Cornwall Avenue with a sound stage that we've produced a bunch of these events, and it's just a really exciting space to be in to help out our community and to help people move the needle towards whatever their goals are. And I like to look at kind of the businesses holistically that we can help with video, and that could be on the recruitment and HR side of things. It could be on a marketing and sales and kind of revenue generation kind of thing. It could be e-learning or how-to videos, those kinds of products. There's ways that you can utilize video for all kinds of different things, and I get really excited about talking with people about that and how to best leverage the assets that you have and to take the channels that you're using in your marketing and your sales and your training to the next level using video. So happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Heidi is next.
Thank you. Again, I'm Heidi Persson. I am relatively new to the area. I've been here just celebrated 2 years 2 weeks ago. So I'm the new general manager at Cascade Media Group. We currently have 5 radio stations, have 32 full-time or 32 employees as a local staff here. We provide radio, marketing, advertising, and do have all the platforms. We have contesting. We can provide digital services if you'd like, some web hosting, that type of thing. And we're here and serving at any given time between 200 and 250 local businesses that are on our airwaves, and a multitude of others that we talk to every day. It is a changing media world. I will completely confess that I'm in the same boat as most advertisers and local businesses are, because it is changing so fast and trying to keep up. It's fabulous to have the resources here in the community that we do with Veritas and Patti and that type of thing, because it all works together. Advertising and marketing works. Finding your niche and directing it where you need to go is something that we can certainly help with. And radio, just as an example, maximizes reach, and everything that you do, radio can help make better. So fun fact, I've worked in markets from Aberdeen, Las Vegas, Seattle, Tacoma to here. And I was once tossed out of a radio plane as part of a radio promotion called Throw Heidi from the Plane.
Thank you, Heidi. And we have Alex, last but not least.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Alex Bruner. I'm the founder of Intellitonic, or one of 3 founders at Intellitonic, a digital marketing agency here in Whatcom focused on SEO, SEM, pay-per-click, and social media advertising. I've got a background in publication as well. I managed the digital audience team at Trunk, which at the time was something 47 papers, including the LA Times, the Miami Sentinel, and the Chicago Tribune. I managed the in-house agency of those entities. And I too was kind of thrown out of a plane, except for the plane in mine was bad management. And I decided to make my own company to take care of the work that I learned how to do there and bring it to the masses at a more equitable rate. So I started Intellitonic to bring fair digital marketing practices to local entities and kind of escape some of the bureaucracy of the old papers that I had been working with. We're fixated largely on our backyard. We really like working with Whatcom County and Washington State businesses. We're a certified B Corp, so we like to work with folks who have similar ethics to ours. But we do have some larger partnerships with some of the bigger publications throughout the country. We still are the reseller of 5 major newspapers here, although I can't not note them because it's like white label work. But we really do focus on the search engine optimization, conversion tracking, and this is going to sound really sure, like trying to democratize the internet and get folks who don't have access to high level dollar spends for marketing their share of voice, so they're able to communicate with the big guys and compete with the big guys. So very focused on conversion tracking and SEO, PPC.
Thank you, Alex. And I realized I failed to mention who I am too. So I'm Chantel Hummel. I'm the Program and Events Coordinator at the Bellingham Regional Chamber. And this will be 5 months now. And it's been great. I appreciate you all being here again. So now we're going to transition into questions. So we had some questions from audience members previously. I sent an email out, and then we're going to go into chat questions. So if you have any questions throughout this session, feel free to put them in the chat and we will try to address them at the end. So first question, and I'll have Patti start off and Alex respond after too. How to plan your marketing in case you need to quickly change your focus depending on the pandemic's trajectory. Do you need two completely different worst case to best case scenario marketing plans? And Patty, I think you're muted.
Okay, yeah, thanks for asking that question. I'm not sure what type of business submitted this, but I can say that that it's good to have a communications plan in place, and that having a plan in place will help you prevent from kind of winging things on the fly. And a communication plan, even a basic one, just a couple pages that outlines, how you'll communicate with staff and your customers and what tools you'll use to communicate change during that time, and who's going to manage those tools, like to document that and present it to your team. I also think it's really helpful to create some kind of if then that scenarios. So, if you're thinking, if we need to unexpectedly close for a couple of days or change how customers buy from us, then we will do this series of things, post an update on the website, add signage to your place of business, share an update through social media, and put together an order like that. It's not so much that you need a distinct different marketing plan for any possible scenario. You just need to know how to communicate with your stakeholders.
Me next?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think that's right, spot on. With us, I'm gonna use my business as an example. We floundered the first weeks of the pandemic, and I was working 14, 16 hours trying to make sure that we had money coming in, that we were able to pay everybody equitably. And I didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know how many events, advertising opportunities we were going to lose due to the shutdowns. What carried us through was not the panic and like the overwork and overzealousness of the founding team. It was having a comprehensive marketing plan that we could move budget according to the need of the market. So when we noted that we were getting a lot of inbound funnel leads just from folks who were themselves looking for advertising, we were able to cut back our marketing budgets and spend more on our fulfillment budgets. So what I'd advise folks to do to be lithe and agile and able to respond to things like the pandemic would be having a very strong core marketing plan that accommodates for a few specific areas. I think hierarchically, the way I would approach it, I would have some accommodation for a general branded campaign. Making sure that your brand is well recognized. You want a general awareness of the service offerings that you're offering your clients. You want to have service offering specific advertising, news and special communications advertising, and then remarketing, where you can bring people in who've engaged with any one of those prior facets to close. If you have those 5 pillars in place, you'll be able to accommodate budget shifts according to what is going on in the marketplace, whether it's a global pandemic or it's a change in your operating structure. So again, it's more about having a plan that you can change on the fly than it is to have a special plan just to accommodate for one overarching issue.
Great, thank you. Heidi or Josh, do you have any comments on that? Or
I do. I think that's definitely the flexibility, communication. Working with your marketing partners is incredibly important. We've all pivoted so many times over the last year and a half, 2 years. That having that relationship, that one-on-one relationship with the person that, or the group that you're doing your marketing with is incredibly important. And just keeping that communication open. We can help and we can respond and we can change and pivot quickly in radio, but we can't do it if we don't know what you need, if you're not talking to us. And that was one thing over the last couple of years that has really solidified a lot of relationships, because as Alex was saying, you don't want to completely disappear from view, but what can we do? Do we need to have just a branding campaign lightly going on until we get our legs back underneath us and decide what direction? But to me, again, it's just communication between you and your marketing partners is just so incredibly important.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah.
With us and those pillars that I mentioned, when we realized that we were getting inbound leads, we were able to divert attention from our advertising for our service offerings because people were already interested in finding somebody. That the market supplied that. So I just turned off our marketing budget for a lot of the service offerings and focused more on the branding and general awareness of that we were there and we were the person who could accommodate those requests. So just to specifically do that, if you're a restaurant, you would stop worrying so much about talking about a specific table option or like a special package, and instead talk about how you have food delivery options available.
Great, thank you. Okay, this question is for Josh. How can I network and build my business when there are not any in-person events happening?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are struggling with that. I mean, Zoom is only gets you so far with some of events like this, but we do have these tools now to engage with people and connect with people in a digital space. And we now have the ability to connect with people outside of our own community too, and enlarge that network. So I guess just looking for opportunities to find those connections that you might not have had before or access to before. And sometimes you just have more access in a digital space. I remember in the earlier days of the pandemic, I started doing a series of Zoom interviews with people that we called Bellingham Now, and I would connect with people, interview them, and then I cut that together in a video. And I was able to get access to a lot of these people that, normally, like, to be able to create something pre-pandemic, that would have been pretty difficult to actually do, but people were available, people, were interested and willing to talk. So that can be, a great option. And then also, we do a lot of virtual events. So designing experiences that can really engage people in that digital environment that is a step up from, a Zoom call or kind of I think we know what Zoom fatigue is now, but these bigger virtual events that are more experiences. There's a lot of great nonprofits in town, like Lydia Place, who've done a great job at engaging their audiences with compelling VIP experiences. You sign up for the event, you get to connect with other VIPs that are closely aligned with the organization's goals. Maybe you get a box in the mail or delivered to you, and you get to engage in the event that way. But then the events themselves pull people together and rally against, a cause. And there's some really engaging ways that we've done that. And that's been something that's kind of moved our team forward and helped make those connections within our community, and then also help our clients make those connections outside of our community. And shameless plug, we do have our own virtual event tomorrow about creating virtual events. So if you're interested in this topic, I'll drop the link to that in the chat, but would love to see you there as well. We're going to be talking with some nonprofit panelists in town who've worked with us and produced some of these great events.
Great, thank you, Josh. And any other comments, Patti?
Real quickly, if anybody in this group has not attended a Bellingham Chamber networking breakfast, then that's a great place to meet new faces that you can continue on and reach out to later and kind of build some relationships with fresh faces. So highly recommend those. And those are virtual and they're easy to attend.
Yes, thank you.
Just a shout out to the chamber. We host, or actually you guys are the hosts, but we have the welcome report, which local businesses are welcome to come in and be interviewed and talk on. And we also have another show that runs on Saturday on KGMI that's called Community Connections. So if you're wanting to go business to business, B2B, or doing something good for the community, or just want to talk about an upcoming event, that's a place that you can have an extended format and interview situation and reach thousands of people at one time.
Alex, you have something?
And again, thank Josh at Veritas. I got to partake in one of those interviews. It's a great way for me to polish up my speaking skills, and Josh was really awesome with it. I'd also say that through the pandemic, specifically in this last couple of months, we've shifted our perspective on what we consider marketing and sales. We're doing a lot more community evangelism, like social justice work and organizing. Like, I've been involved in a lot of protest actions over the last 2 years, and that outreach into the community and getting a better understanding of our broader community has actually paid dividends for the business. It was not expected. We were trying to be altruistic and more engaged, but just the general networking that we got working with people in our community has paid dividends. I've gotten referrals and leads from places where I never expected. So being more involved in direct politics and actions in the community has been impactful to our bottom line.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What are the top 5 SEO tricks to keep a website and online presence strong? And I'll start with Alex on this one.
I got some notes for this one, and I'll share them with the group because it gets a little long-winded. I personally am averse to the concept of using tactics in the sense that you should have a comprehensive marketing strategy that's well thought out and deliberate for SEO, where all the parts play into each other. But to be reductive and get to some very specific things that people could take away, I listed 5. So my 5, and they're not in order of importance, top SEO tactics. I like leveraging influencer marketing to generate domain authority. And what I mean by this is most folks will pay an influencer on Instagram or TikTok to reference their brand or their product. And that's the end of the engagement. They may track the conversions, they may track whether they get any sales from it. For SEO, one of the facets of what moves the needle for search engines is referential links from other websites to your own. So when another website hyperlinks to yours, that can pay dividends in helping you attain the keyword rankings you wish. So you combine these two things. When you're purchasing sponsorship from an influencer and they have 100,000 followers, they often typically have a website as well. And you don't typically ask them, hey, can we put a testimonial of our product on your website? When you do that and they hyperlink back to your website, you're getting a portion of the authority from their website to your own. So you're already getting the impressions and the general sales that you went to the influencer for in the first place, but you can add additional equity by getting backlinks from them. So I like leveraging my existing deals to get authoritative backlinks from folks. Bear with me here, my second one. The second thing I like to do is Google local work. So it's local SEO specifically, and it is focused on getting more out of your Google My Business listing. Folks don't understand how powerful Google My Business is as it pertains to local SEO. If you Google search Bellingham pizza, you're going to get a completely different set of keyword results than if you look up Bellingham or Bellingham shipbuilding. Like, Google knows now the intent of your search, and they're going to give you a search engine result based on where you are geoproximally and what they believe your intent to be. You can manipulate these search engine results by making sure that you have the most possible key phrases into your Google My Business. 2 micro tactics within this. You're allowed to, as a brand, ask questions of your Google My Business page and then answer those questions. It's a great way to add additional content to a Google My Business, which otherwise doesn't have a whole lot of user-facing content. So you can ask questions and then answer them. The other thing you can do is when you respond to other reviews from other folks, you can reply in kind. So when somebody says, I went in and had a great deep dish pizza, I loved it, you could reply, we believe our Bellingham deep dish pizza to be the best pizza in the market. You know, all of our customers say that this is their favorite place in Whatcom County. And then just by replying to that with key phrase references, I've added additional key phrase content to my Google My Business. So local SEO. I'm going to try to go through these 2 more quickly. Another thing you can do is set up an easy redirect on your website to help folks find your Google My Business so you can get more reviews from them. If you tell somebody, hey, review us on Google, they're going to have a hard time finding that profile likely. But what you can do is set up an HTTPS redirect on the website. So when somebody goes to, in my case, intellitonic.com/reviews, and I invite you to try this, it will bring them directly to where the form pops up that they can review my business. On the back end, I can change that. If I get a lot of Google reviews in a given month, I can switch it to Facebook. I can switch it to AVO if I'm an attorney, whatever I want it to be. So having an easy method for folks to get reviews that you can print on cardstock is going to be really helpful to your bottom line. Another 2 quick tactics to burn through this so I don't waste much time. You want to resize your images in your website to only be effective for as big as they need to be. And by that, I mean, I used to work for the Spice Hut, another local entity here. My friend Tanvir and I got a nice camera and we went through and reshot all the images on his website and uploaded them full size. By the end of it, we had a 47-second load time for our website. This is 8 years ago, 10 years ago, so we've since fixed it. But resizing those images to be appropriate to just the right size to display prominently in the most used browser specs is going to help cut down your site load time. The other thing you can do while you're adding images to your website is add alt text to make ADA compliance work. Folks who can't read the content on the website as easily as folks like myself use text to voice browsers that will need to convey to the user what an image represents. And if you don't use this alt text, people won't have that access. So it's a good way to get keyword opportunity and fixing this for ADA compliance. I've got another one on there, but I don't want to waste too much more time. If anybody else wants to have another crack at this, by all means.
I could jump in there real quick too. I mean, video is also a great component to enhance SEO and the more content that you're able to create. Piggybacking off of what Alex said about accessibility, if you do have video on your website, if you can get those videos transcribed and get SRT files connected to those video clips, that can also be indexed and searched by search engines. And that's a great way to be found as well. And then utilizing other tools like YouTube, second largest search engine. If you have a content library that's driving traffic to that channel as a social media channel and then driving traffic to your website, that can also be a great way to stand out and be found.
Yes, Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add one tiny tip in there. Recently, Google had reported that if you bold certain text on your web pages, that will help with SEO. There's a pretty good article about that in Search Engine Journal, and I'll drop that in the notes here in the chat.
Thank you. Any other comments from the panelists?
One more, I'm gonna throw it out there. This will be helpful for folks who are business owners. If you search your brand's name in quotes in Google and then find all the references out there where you're not hyperlinked, it can be very easy for you to leverage the content that many of the folks maybe on this panel or other advertisers have done for you and ask that they then hyperlink that text. So if at any point Intellitonic is referenced in a news article, I contact that organization and say, hey, would it be possible to have a hyperlink added to my name? Just doing that is going to pay dividends in your overall keyword rankings. So being mindful of where you're listed and making sure that there's inclusion for a hyperlink is really important.
That was all very helpful. And just as a side note, we are recording this and I'll be sending it out too if you need to reference back to it. Okay, next question. How many digital media platforms should a business use for marketing, and how do I choose which ones? And I'll have Patti start.
This is a question that gets asked often, and it seems that when people start doing social media management on a DIY basis, they use what I call kind of the spray and pray tactic, where they want to do all the things. But I really recommend knowing who your target audiences are and looking for where they are, what platforms they're using, and then aligning your business with that and investing time and resources in those platforms. And maybe if you're a little business, maybe you're picking, one or two platforms and you're doing a really good job at those, and then kind of test and revisit after 3 months or so to see what the results are looking like. But I don't recommend. I've seen this come in on occasion where people want to do Facebook, or they want to market their business on Facebook because that's their personal preference and the platform that they like to use, but it's not where their customers are. So really paying attention to how do your customers want to receive information, and ask them in person, or do a survey if you have email addresses for your clients, and ask them what their what social sites they use, and then align with that. And again, make sure that you've got some kind of outline or a plan for the volume of content you want to produce, and who's going to produce that for you, or who you delegate that to on the team, and the consistency rate. So I also hear, I have an assistant doing this and she tells me that we're doing good, but there's no measurables on that, or what does that mean? Right? Doing good means, is it turning and converting into clients, or is it busy work? So I would say, keep your target in mind and pick a couple that align with that, and start with that, and then build from it if that ends up working out. So
Thank you.
I would totally echo that. Pick what you do and do it well. And then once you feel that you've got a handle on that, then you can add, or you can broaden that reach out. But trying to be all things to all people is just a recipe for disaster, and you're going to spend a ton of money trying to wading through all of that. So if you're not able at this point to contract with somebody to help you do that, and you don't have somebody in-house, start small, and just focus on that. And like I said, pick one, do what you have the bandwidth. The mentor told me that a long time ago. Do what you have the bandwidth for, and do that well. And at that point, determine where your next step should go.
Alex or Josh, anything you'd like to add?
I'll always take the opportunity to hear my own voice. Yeah, I would do everything everybody said, pick the ones that are most effective for you. But I would also add that at one point, at least, you should try every platform and claim every platform, just for name recognition and branding. Make sure that you claim all the accounts, even if you're not going to use them. And when you do that, you should build out the account so it looks professional. And then I'd say that when you have the bandwidth, even if you don't intend to make use of a marketing medium, you should run a trial campaign with a decent budget on it to test it. So then later on, when you solicit the services of an organization like myself, you have an understanding of what the work they're actually doing is. You have an appreciation for where your dollars are going in the management fee, and you don't feel like you're just spending money erroneously. So I would say it's effective if you have the luxury of doing it to test each platform yourself, even if for a limited time. But you should be basing that on what's effective and what you have the bandwidth for.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add to that. I think just kind of being able to cross promote some of those channels too, and if you've got a blog on your website and there's opportunities to engage your audience in that maybe in different channels and drive people to your website. Ultimately, I think that's where you want people is on your website to lead them down that funnel to convert them into customers. But lots of strategies for how to do that. I guess customizing your message too for each platform is another thing to consider. Like when we produce video content, we don't usually blast that out the same deliverable for each platform, but a video on LinkedIn looks different than a video on Facebook, looks different than a video on Instagram, whether that's in how it's formatted or the duration, or like there's all of these different things to consider for each platform. So just make sure that you're kind of looking at those platforms and you're able to customize your message and the way that you're posting. And maybe it's not a video on each platform. Maybe that's not the most effective thing to use, but customizing your message for the channel that you're using.
Great. I see two hands up, Patti and Sophia. Patti.
Yeah, I just wanted to mirror a bit what Josh was saying there about not sending the exact same thing out to all platforms. And I see this on Twitter quite often where a brand will just check the box that said, that sends that same post out on Twitter, but it comes out looking weird on Twitter. Maybe, the links are cut off or the entire status update doesn't show up. And I've also seen where on Twitter where a brand may say they're on Twitter, but they're actually just posting messages and they're not replying or responding. And that's a negative thing on your brand. So I don't recommend just, doing a one box check to again, spray it out into the world without at least monitoring the site for comments or feedback or retweets or, looking at the content and seeing if it rolls out as you intended.
Great. Sophia, did you have a question? You are muted.
Good morning. Thank you so much. My name is actually pronounced Sophia, but nobody would know that just by looking at it. And thank you so much for this morning's forum. This has already been very, very fruitful. Just a moment ago, I heard something I've heard before in discussing digital marketing, and that's to figure out who your audience is and what their needs are and where they're hanging out. It mystifies me. How would I actually concretely go about finding out who my people are that I'm looking for? Is it a survey? Is it an online survey, a mail survey, a MailChimp survey? How would I do this?
I can take that. If you have social media accounts set up on the business side, there's typically a lot of information that the average business owner does not make use of. LinkedIn, for example, if you have a LinkedIn account, and again, this is particular to whomever's using LinkedIn, you can look into your following base and see not only what industries they're populated largely by, but also what pages they follow, what their job security looks like, in the sense of how long they've been in their role, what skill sets they have training in. On Facebook, comparably, you can look at the Insights tab there and look at the general demographics and psychographics of your user base. And that can give you that initial piece, right? Like you can have a general idea, okay, my people are between the age range of this, they are interested in this, they are this political affiliation. You can get a basic idea with that. Then I would advise doing testing. Solicit the services of an organization who has deeper experience in every platform and can tell you where you're best suited. And again, you can do something like that typically in a free consult. You don't need to pay someone for general ideas, and then you can then plumb and look deeper into yourself.
Just to get on LinkedIn, how exactly does one look for that?
Yeah, I have to check. I haven't looked at it in the last year or so because I have somebody doing that at my company now, but there's a tab called advertising, and within that there's one called Insights that I believe you can look at even the people you've earned organically.
Thank you so much.
Patty, do you have some?
Yeah, and I can just add a little bit to that. Your like Google Analytics on your website will give you some demographics as well, from location of where people are viewing your site and the age range and gender. So that will give you a little feel for who is looking at it. I know, from over the years through my business, I know, the size of the business, of the company that works well for outsourcing to us. I know, their general, annual sales range. I know what our target is. You kind of keep an eye out for those things as your business develops. And then also potentially look at your main competitors, and if they've got social sites, look for who's following and connecting with them on those platforms, and that can give you a little peek into who their targets are, who are probably very similar to what yours will be.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that question, Sophia. And we will also have more time for questions towards the end, if anyone has more. So next question. It is hard for my business to get ROI on social media. What social media alternatives should I consider? And I'll have Heidi start with this one.
Social media, I mean, there's so many different answers to this, but with regards to radio and social media, you can use radio. If you're having a hard time getting ROI, you can use us to point people to where you want them to go. Do you want them to go to your website, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn? Where is it you want to drive that audience to? What is it you want to share with them? So use us. We have DJ influencers. Radio is the original social media. You can use a DJ to create a story and talk about what you have and what's important to for your listener, for your customer, to entice them over to your website. So contesting, there's all sorts of things that we can do with a contest platform. We can run a small marketing campaign for you tied to a contest or a giveaway. In front of that, we have the ability to ask multiple questions. We can link them back to your website again, or your Facebook page. So there's just a multitude of ideas that can be done in the concept. And it's not just in the digital, field, or going out and doing it with Facebook. You can use us to maximize that reach as well.
Thank you. Any other comments from the panelists?
Take a stab too. I think it's also good to think about the type of content that you're publishing to social media. And, if you're just sending out either advertising or promotions or things along those lines, that's probably not going to give you the results that you're looking for. And instead, I'm a big fan of the inbound methodology. HubSpot is really big on this. If you haven't looked into HubSpot, I would highly recommend just looking at it. They have a ton of resources online for marketing and sales, and inbound is this whole methodology that I think is worth exploring, or at least learning about. But the idea of creating content that your audience is interested in, setting yourself up as a thought leader in your industry or your space, and just creating valuable engagement points for your clients and your prospects, that they see that stuff and they see it. There's value in that. To me, this isn't just a sales pitch or an advertisement, but there's a pathway to learn more and to try to solve my problems through some of this content. But if you're putting that stuff out on your social, that can also be really helpful. And sometimes there's a good mix of both of those, that can happen. But looking at the content that you're promoting and putting out there is good too.
I would just add to that that looking into your customer relations programs can be an alternative. You can, if you treat your existing customers well, then they will become your little brand advocates, and they can help spread the word about the work that you're doing and tell their friends and neighbors. And those are nice warm leads coming in when somebody that they already know and like has recommended your business. So I would take a look this year at how you can take care of your existing customers, maybe give them little gifts, or call and touch base with them, or ask if they'll write a review for your business. And so just kind of circling back to people who already know and like you, and helping to, and asking them to, share the goodness out through their networks.
One more note. So regarding ROI in social media, and generally ROI in any platform in your digital marketing mix or marketing mix, there are a lot of intangibles as well that you can't really track, even though we've got a lot of tracking mechanisms available on online advertising. So we've had anecdotal evidence with our own brand, Intellitonic, where we're not aggressively active on our social media. Most of our sales come from referrals. Like folks have worked with us, they go to another firm and they bring us with them. That's the majority of my business comes from. Even though I'm an advertising agent, I don't have to do a whole lot of advertising because it's word of mouth. However, people will see our ads, they will click to the website, they'll the next day go and look at our Facebook page to make sure we're legitimate and not just some spam outfit. And then they will come into the organic side, go to our website and make a contact point. If I didn't have that interstitial piece where they were able to validate that my brand is real and engaging on social media, I wouldn't get the sale. So nixing your budget because of a perceived lack of ROI for social media, you got to be careful with that. You should probably do some UX testing with folks who have found you and just, hey, can I ask you a few questions about how you came to us, to make sure that there's not that stage where they're validating the reality of you on social media.
Thank you all for those comments. It's great. Okay, next question. What are your favorite marketing books, blogs, or podcasts? And I'll have Josh start with this one.
All right. Well, I just picked up this book. It's a fairly new book. It's called The Visual Sale by Marcus Sheridan. Again, it embraces the inbound methodology, being a thought leader in your space, and in this case, just leveraging the power of video for a lot of those activities. So highly recommend that. He's also got a couple other books out there for, I think it's They Ask You Answer, just providing answers to your customers and using that as a starting place for content marketing and generating content to solve those problems. But some really great ideas in that book.
Betty?
Yes, so I have a couple books that I have found super helpful over the years. This one is called The Membership Economy. And in this book, you can learn about how to set up your business to generate recurring income. And it's, think about Amazon Prime and how they use that model to create recurring annual income, whether people buy anything or not. So really great book, and it outlines a lot of how various industries can achieve something like that. And then the other book is called The Go Giver, and this is just a sweet, very small book that talks about kind of the power of of giving and then receiving in return, and that giving, and in business there's a lot of different ways we can do this, just by kind of putting goodness out into the world, and then goodness comes back to you. So I'm a big believer in those kind of things. I also have a list of some blogs that I check in with often, and I'll drop this in the chat.
Hi, I go strictly old school here. Not strictly, I read a lot, but two of my go-tos, and they've held up over the test of time, would be there's two books, same authors, Positioning or the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Ries and Jack Trout, legendary marketing gurus from way back when. But if you haven't read those or checked that out, I would definitely, again, short reads. They're not overly long, but just some real good basic tenets of marketing and advertising that hold true today.
Great. Alex?
Sorry, yeah, I have a couple, and one of them was mentioned already. Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land for like my daily, just checking up on what's new. But a lot of these places you're going to find news pertinent to digital marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, social media that is not as cutting edge because people are sharing it with each other, but it can be very effective for just reinforcing your core tenets and how you're positioning your SEO and pay-per-click. And then there's a local one called Cleaning and Kirsten Get to Work. They're friends of mine, and they do a podcast that they release periodically that has been helpful for just overall business planning. I'll share a link to that one here just to help the local organization.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to transition into some audience questions. I received some in the chat throughout this conversation. So the first one is curious about any marketing channels that the panel believes have become more relevant and will become, and any channels that will or have become less relevant. And I'll have Patty start with that one.
That's a good question. So what's currently relevant and what's not? Well, I think I guess it kind of depends on what your business is and what you are doing, right? So I don't know if the person that asked that is comfortable popping on and letting us know what, but maybe we could answer the question more carefully if we knew what industry you were in. And
yes, Keith.
Yeah, I asked that question.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So is it banking related, Keith, or is it for a different, like a passion project?
No, I was just curious. Yeah, for related to WeQ, just thoughts on. Yeah.
I think that just from the research and whatnot that I've read and been studying, it comes back to, especially during the pandemic, a channel that has surged actually is audio, and audio also, podcasting is certainly cutting edge at this point. But by audio, that also means radio. There has been a resurgence in radio listening through the pandemic, and it's continuing to grow, and just the popularity of audio has been on the rise. If you look at any marketing text they're going to talk to you, you're going to hear a lot about audio, and that also includes streaming. So terrestrial radio, streaming radio, traditional, just if it's heritage or traditional, it doesn't mean it's not effective, but it's just been exciting for us to see and hear all the buzz that is now around audio. And again, recognizing that audio, radio is not longer just a little box on a table. Radio is ubiquitous. It's in your car, it's in your computer, it's on your smartphone, it's in your smart speaker. You can just ask for it to play. And so having that has absolutely revolutionized the fact that radio and audio in general is just certainly on the rise. Coupled with that a little bit, and everybody has their own pace, but there's been a bit of burnout. We've been spending time on Zoom meetings and in our screens, and there has just really been a sense of, I want to step away from that and just relax that part of my mind for a while. Certainly it's very well used, but there has been a sense of trying to go back and being more intentional and more concentrated. And there has been studies that have shown that when people are listening to radio, they are more concentrated. It's a more concentrated focus if they're listening to music. I do have some stats. I'll see if I can pop them in here on that. They're listening to music. They're listening for news and information, spoken word. There's just a stronger engagement level with that. So again, that translates into audio across a lot of different formats, but specifically if you're talking about what's trending, audio and radio.
And I would say, Keith, too, that looking at analytics to see what current social media tools are driving traffic or causing action, and look over the last 2 or 3 years and check to see which platforms are not generating as much impact as they have in the past. And I believe it's okay to let those go. Like, some people have a hard time letting them go because they think we need to keep going because there's some type of little market. But if you have to be selective, and if something has to go, pick what's no longer performing, or change the way you're using that to try and improve the performance of it. So, for some businesses, maybe 5 years ago, invested quite a bit of time on Twitter, and locally here, that's hit or miss, right? I love Twitter personally, but and it generates hits to our website, but I wouldn't say that it generates customers out of this. It's more community engagement. So anyway, check your web analytics and review the analytics within each social platform to see, what the trends are looking like.
Go ahead,
First
Alex.
time. Yeah, so one of them is going to be review, something I already discussed, and then I'll do two kind of more interesting ones. And they're not so much dead platforms because those are hard to find. Like Foursquare, I would say, is probably not relevant anymore if they're even operational. Just the check-in based stuff is less impactful. But the stuff that I'm most excited about, and some of these come with some asterisks, are in order. I Google My Business, again, I've hit it once. Google is persistently changing the search infrastructure of all of their platforms to focus on like data-based results rather than bringing clients to your website. So let's use Keith as an example. I see Obiku insignia in the upper left corner. Keith working with a local bank that has multiple chapters. There are results that are taking place in Google My Business that are not even reportable in Google Analytics anymore. There are clicks to directions and clicks to phone call from the GMB, wherein a user searches for credit union near me and they click the phone button directly in Maps. That does not hit your website. Google is continuously, to the tune of like 1 to 2% per year, taking traffic away from clients' websites and sending the traffic directly to the GMB platform because that's more manageable for them. They get to ensure more of a pristine user experience. So I'd advise any business that has local address tied to their business function to be reporting on the Insights tab of their Google My Business for all of their locations. This is data that's not otherwise reached. It does not go to Google Analytics, it's its own platform. So that's my number one, and that has changed a lot in the pandemic. And I'll admit at the pandemic, it mostly went away for a while because Google was not showing those results because they didn't want to induce users to go out and do commerce locally. They were trying to stomp down on that, but it is back in bold. So local GMB. Second one, and this is funny too, Facebook has seen a loss of market share in the advertising side, and folks who had to work with them for the last year have often personally canceled their accounts and stopped working with Facebook because it's been such a terrible user experience. However, the results are still solid. It's just harder to track the efficacy. You've lost tracking. You haven't lost the efficacy of the platform. And the other thing I'll say about Facebook, people laughed at the Meta name change. The Meta name change heralds their focus on the metaverse and VR content. If you've been an early adopter of VR content, you've started to look in there, you'll see it's the Wild West right now for advertising and for the type of content that's used, but people are engaging with it and they're seeing astronomical sales. That is going to be something that Facebook leverages their ad network for soon. They will start portraying advertisement in the virtual space, and that's going to be a big component that you're going to have to accommodate for in your business plan. And then third and final, and this is one that kind of slipped under the radar for folks who aren't e-commerce. In the last 2 years, Amazon went self-serve for advertising. So you can purchase Amazon advertising in feed to advertise your products, whereas before you had to have an account representative with Amazon handle that for you, and you had to reach a threshold to spend. So if you're selling blue widgets and you have to accommodate for the Amazon marketplace just to compete, you can advertise those products, and there aren't many brands taking advantage of this right now. So Amazon advertisements are big, and they will expand that to use advertising on the Kindle market and their other platforms, and they have already on the CPM side.
Thank you all for that. John, you had a question?
Yeah, so I'm John Bacon, Wacom Land Title, and we're mainly a service industry, so we don't really sell, physical things. But our target market is primarily real estate agents and lenders, mortgage lenders, and we are really restricted by the insurance commissioner in how we can reach out to these people, and we cannot co-advertise with them or have the appearance of a co-advertising. So ideally we would, the best case scenario would be able to link our products to a customer, like a real estate agent's or lender's website, and create that kind of co-marketing there. But we can't do that. Our hands are tied. So I'm wondering if you guys have any recommendations for how to reach out to these specific target markets specifically, and a good strategy for that. And I heard, Alex, what you're saying about this very specific content and not, general things that will help, that will benefit them. But also the other thing is we hardly do any advertising to the general public because they don't really drive business to us. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas about that, opening up that avenue to kind of push business from the public to us. That's all I got.
So John, do you think that the general public knows that they have a choice in choosing a company like Whatcom Land Title, or is that just a decision that happens in the middle of an already confusing process?
That's correct. I think the general public doesn't really have any idea what title insurance and escrow is. The only time they cross paths with us is when they purchase a home, and not even when they get a loan, because a lender does that side of it. That's behind the scenes. So when they buy or sell a home is when they come into contact with us, and that kind of makes it hard for us. I was thinking more maybe like just doing a brand recognition, like Peace Health does around town or something like that. And then when people do come across it, it's time to buy a house, then they would think of Whatcom Land. But I don't know, that's kind of a really general thing I was thinking about, but if you have something specific to add.
Would it be legit or okay in your industry that, with maybe some select real estate agents, how they post the picture of, their new person with the keys to their front door, right? And wondering if there would be some tagging opportunities in that, where they might be able to say, list out a couple of the companies that they worked with, maybe the home inspector, maybe, Whatcom Land Title. They could include that in the shout out that they're giving.
Yeah, they could, as long as we don't have anything to do with that happening. If we were to say, hey, it'd be great if you did this, then it could be considered co-advertising by the insurance commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's like hands are tied almost, when it comes to that sort of thing. It's hard.
Well, in the radio world, we have opportunities like that all the time to partner with the radio station for a community event, or even something specific that could be designed that ties into the industry. You could be presented as the expert person to talk about, just what it is you do. Or we could raise your profile. We have a promotion that we call, just as an example, it's called the Christmas Wish that we do every year. I think we had over 2,000 requests for people to fill wishes. And we partner with a couple of large entities in the market. Philips is one. And so they put branded, we go out, they supplement some of the gift giving, the wish giving that we do, but it's a way for them to brand, and it's certainly been well received. And there's multitudes of things that we do with regards to that, with community sponsorships. Currently, we're just looking at promoting, starting to promote a blood drive, because we know that the need is so great. So, those opportunities, it's just a quick call to find out what the end user, what is it you really want to do? Do you just want to brand it? Do you want to drive people somewhere? Is it just a recognition? And having that discussion, and it could be something that we already have in line that you could add on to, or it would be something we develop, strictly for your business. And we do that daily. We sit down with people and talk to them about what is it you would like, and come out with a one-off that ends up dedicated to duty is another thing that we do, where we're promoting positive stories of local law enforcement, and that's underwritten by two different companies as a branding mechanism. And they simply get name recognition and, a quick little liner about their business, and it runs 24/7. 12 months a year. So again, very, that's sort of the bread and butter of radio and what we can do for local advertisers.
How do you guys, and this is open for anybody, not just the last speaker, but how do you measure the success of a brand campaign? Like, is there, because we can spend money, putting our name out there, but we definitely want dollars to come back to us. Do you guys have a way of measuring that?
I mean, for me and my side, we do a lot of branded, just as like table stake stuff that you have to do to work with us, because it assists in the conversions in the back end. So I guess you have to find ways to make the brand mix. The branded stuff is difficult to prove value, so you have to use other means to prove its value. So if I see my conversions go up on my explicit stuff, I'll typically assume that since I'm running brand in addition to that, that some percentage of that is because they saw it branded, then they hit the convertible. The second piece you can do, and this is just a purely SEO thing, if I'm running brand and I see an uptick in my keyword rankings, I treat that as a win because I'm getting more traffic and therefore my domain authority is more potent. So my SEO is better. So I'll get more convertible trackable users there. I used to work for Carnegie Mellon University and Tepper University and Pepperdine University, a bunch of top tier universities doing their matriculation. And it was really funny. I had a completely different perspective on branded stuff before I came into that relationship. I would spend, say, $1,000 through an Intellitonic client and maybe make 3 sales. That same $1,000 with a company that had an established brand, maybe 500 sales. Branding is massive. Like the general recognition and trust of the public is the single most potent thing you can possibly have for your conversion-centric advertising campaigns. And I completely wasn't paying respect to that when I worked at an agency where I worked with these super organizations. I don't know if that helps, but I like to go around the direct, well, I can't prove that I got a sale from this. The other areas that you're working with where you can prove the sale.
Yeah, I'd say that happens all the time, especially with radio, because, frankly, we don't have all the back end stuff when we're talking on the radio. But if you're looking at lift in traffic to your website, your Facebook page, your LinkedIn, or, whatever it is, just because your name's out there. Traditionally, it's been proven that radio drives they drive online search. There's about a 29% lift in search when you're doing a marketing campaign or, specifically to a branding campaign. Again, it's more effective if you're actually asking them to do something specific. But yeah, you have to look at the totality. You're getting more phone calls, into the office. Is website, your web hits going up? What is it you've done different? Oh, I've added this. So there's a little bit of detective work that does go into it. But if you look at the big picture, and if you're doing branding campaigns, like Alex said, that's a win if you've got a lift in those metrics once that campaign has launched.
One tactic that can help you prove the value of that with any marketing that you're doing, you're in Google Analytics. People don't know this. It's really obscure and hidden. There's an option called annotations. So you can go into Google Analytics and add a note in Google Analytics that will persist forever. That will say, on this day, we launched this blog post, or on this day, we started a branded campaign with Cascade Media Group. On this day, we revised our website. Then 1 year later, when you're looking at data in arrears, you can more efficiently track the trends. Like, oh, this is why this happened. This is why these pages got more emphasis because we did a keyword treatment that day. So just using that will help you kind of later on after the fact prove value.
Josh, did you have something?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to kind of follow up on John's question there too of, if you can create content that tells the story of how you're going to help, someone else's client win the day. So like a real estate agent or a lender being able to show the experience that they have working with you and promoting that experience, that can get them engaged with seeing, who you are, what it's like to work with you. And then also just kind of reinforce, like, this is who we are in the community. This is where our service lies and what we, give back in the community, how long we've been here. Some other things there. Because I think this is your 40th anniversary this year. There's probably some opportunities to capitalize on that too and promote that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Josh.
And then also just video engagement could be another metric to look at for brand engagement. So you might not see conversions or anything, but you could see, how much of a video is somebody watching, how likely are they to engage with our brand or see our branding. There's some pretty detailed reports and analytics that you can get through using video as a medium to see, is your messaging landing? Is it, are people consuming that type of content? But great questions.
I want to honor everyone's time. We do have 2 more questions. Is that okay with all the panelists? Do you have a couple more minutes?
I'm fine.
Okay, perfect. We have one from Christy and then one from Deja after that. Christy, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I'll be really quick. I work for Cascade Eye and for cataract surgery and that kind of thing. Our main target audience is above 65. So for a lot of what I do, social media works and video works really well, but for that particular demographic, they're not comfortable online. They're, to get them to watch a video is like, okay, here's an iPad, I'll push the button. And to get them to even, react to, emails scary and it's just really kind of hard. So we look at, I've looked at radio, I've looked at TV, I've looked at bulletin boards and mailings and that kind of thing, but wondering what you had as far as any insight into trying to reach that demographic.
We work quite a bit with the elder population, and they're still reading print ads in publications like the Linden Tribune and the Ferndale Record. So print ads is one way to go. Also connecting with the local senior center, seeing if there's some events you can sponsor, or maybe you can come in and be a guest speaker at an activity that they have planned. Those are some ideas. There's also some resource guides for the elderly that are published. And so those are, again, they tend to pick those things up and to hold on to them and to cut things out and stick them on their fridge to save them for later. So giving them those types of something they can hold in their hand, as opposed to, try something else to read. I totally hear you. My mom is almost 80 and she's got little notes of things stuck everywhere. And it's for her, she doesn't like to open her email because things pop up and then she doesn't know what to do with them, and totally understand that market. So giving them things they can hold in their hand. There used to be pre-pandemic, there was, I think, like a senior day in the park kind of thing that the Bellingham Senior Center put on, and there you could have an info booth and they would come around, and it was super cute. Like the elderly people would basically trick or treat your booth, and they all had their bags, and that was a nice way to get in touch and have face-to-face conversations with them as well. But yeah.
And of course, with radio formats and whatnot, spoken word format is really popular with that particular demo. So you can advertise on a talk radio station. We have KGMI as an example. You can tie it to specific programs. You can just advertise in general. As being the person that answers the phone quite a bit at the radio station, I know that we talk to a lot of that demographic, because I speak with many of them weekly. Radio is a companion, and it's trusted. I mean, that's another one. With that demographic, trust is a huge thing, and radio can establish that trust. And if somebody has a habit of listening to a specific station, they tend to trust those DJs. They tend to trust the people that are talking. And so it's a really awesome way for a group like yourself to come in, partner, and talk to, have those DJs talk about that business or do it yourself, but get directly to that demographic. So definitely there are ways to reach them, but there are challenges. I totally hear you.
Thanks.
Let's say one last note on that. Again, getting to the folks who they trust to help them make informed decisions can also be effective, right? If you're marketing to the caretakers, the families, and those folks, that this is something that can help their elderly relative, they can be the people who help bridge the gap.
Josh, go ahead.
Nope, Alex had it. That's what I was going to say too. Yep. Think about the messaging and who your target market, really is, and if there's ways to get into your target customer through those influencers, whether that's a caretaker. But yeah, Alex nailed it.
Great. And Deja, you had a question. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, so I work for Lydia Place. I just came on less than a month ago, and as the communications and graphics manager, still trying to get that title down. But previously, I worked for Canberra Coffee doing. I was their marketing coordinator and photographer and handled social media and everything. So going from selling coffee to selling a vision, an idea, it's a little bit different. And so I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts or advice about, even though a lot of the marketing things that I'm doing are very similar to what I did, it's also different, like I said, versus selling a good. So I'm just curious if anyone has any advice.
I mean, this is a perfect one for me. I went from selling tea and spices to running a digital marketing agency. There were some years in between, but what worked for me is finding thought leaders that you trust their share of voice, like they resonate with you as people by what you read in their bios and how they communicate with each other, following their content daily and like just responding to it. My boss, when I first started in digital marketing, made me read every blog on the main digital marketing resources for the first week. All I did was just read content, and then for the next months I would be requested to comment on every post and ask a leading question or a particular question. And by my third month, I was not only commenting, I was writing my own response pieces to what the talking heads were discussing. So finding resources you trust and then just engaging with those, it's going to take some time, but just you're going to absorb a lot of that information. And then the other part is there's organizations like ours that would love to give you free support and help. My brand is making enough money off of a lot of our larger engagements that we can do a lot of pro bono work. I serve on the board at Northwest Youth Services, so I'd love to help Lydia Place. Like if you're looking for some tutelage or just general, hey, what works best in this transition, I'd be happy to do that with my team. You can come into our office if it's safe. We've got an extra desk and there's 15 of us.
But
I would just add to that. I think what Lydia Place has done well in the past is some of the storytelling that goes along with, showing people what their donations and contributions do and what the impact that has in the community. So I think, looking back upon what others before you have done and kind of keeping that ball rolling will be important. So.
all right. Thank you all for your questions and your participation. This was our January on topic marketing in the new year. And thank you so much, Alex, Josh, Heidi, and Patty. We really appreciate it. And I know I learned a lot today, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.